Hi everybody, this is Charlie Hagan with On Air, My Beatles Collection. Some of you may know me from Facebook. My Facebook group is My Beatles Collection. So if you found me through the Facebook group, that's great. And if you found me through a YouTube search, that's great too. Today I'm going to talk about one item that's a bit controversial. At least John Lennon fans seem to be somewhat divided about the validity of this release. And I am too, frankly. I happen to believe that if John were alive today, this particular project probably would not have gotten off the ground. So I struggled a bit with, do I want to buy this thing? Of course, I'm talking about the Mind Games meditation vinyl or project. Some people have bought the CD, some people just stream. I did buy the vinyl, partially because I'm a bit of a completist, partially because it's a very interesting clear vinyl project, and I'm kind of a sucker for color and clear vinyl. But mostly because I am a bit of a fan of meditation music, and I thought, I wonder what they'll do with John's Mind Games project in terms of turning it into a meditation, vehicle for meditation. I do have some meditation discs. My wife actually is more of a meditation fan than I am, and when she works in her office, she has meditation music on all the time. When I'm in the car, I tend to listen to Sirius XM and mostly the Beatles channel. Channel 18 on my system, but I also listen to the Spa channel sometimes, which is primarily meditation music, and it is designed to relax you sometimes, excite you sometimes, calm you down. It serves a lot of different purposes. Meditation itself serves a lot of different purposes, but the way the music is constructed also can serve many different purposes. And that's a good reason why this meditation album by John, or issued in John's name, why it's so interesting, because you can't really listen to it like an album. It's a series of meditation tracks. There are 9 songs, if that's the right choice of words, and there are 9 mantras. The 9 songs range from, I'm gonna look at my notes here, they range from about 5 minutes long to as long as 33 minutes. So in some cases you get the whole side of a vinyl album for one track. And in other cases you get 2 or 3 or 4 tracks on a side. It's not really the type of thing you'd listen to like an album where you listen to every track. It would depend on your mood and what you're trying to accomplish with your meditation, that you become familiar with the different tracks and how they either stimulate you or relax you or whatever feeling you're reaching for. And you would just play that track. Or maybe there's more than one track that you would play just simply because you want to create a certain mood and those tracks satisfy that mood, whereas other tracks might not. The mantras are interesting in the sense that, so there's the 9 songs, again, for want of a better term for it, and then the 9 mantras are very short, and they are on a repeat, so that when you put the needle down on one of the mantra tracks, it will play endlessly. This is the magic of vinyl records. If you're familiar with the Sgt. Pepper Inner Groove, at the end of the Sgt. Pepper album, for those that did not have an automatic changer, when the needle reached the Sgt. Pepper Inner Groove, it would play that forever until somebody stood up and went over and lifted the needle off the record. Of course, if you had an automatic changer, it would just reject like it normally does, and the tone arm and the needle would go back to where they start. So that's interesting. That the mantras are there's 9 of them, and they all have that feature where you put the needle down and they individually will play forever. unless you get up and pick up the tone arm and move the needle to another track. So without further ado, let me show you what the package looks like. I have put a plastic sleeve over the record the way it came, and I put the hype sticker. Hopefully you can see that. I put the hype sticker on the outer plastic because I didn't want to throw the hype sticker away, but I did want to open the disc. So there's the hype sticker on the plastic. I'm wearing gloves because this album, more than any album I've ever owned, is very prone to fingerprints. And you could actually see a few fingerprints on there already. And I've never really touched it with my fingers. I have touched it with these gloves on. Those are not fingerprints. Those are part of the design. And it opens like this and like this. I'll turn it around and open it for you. Obviously a lot of glare because it's a mirror finish, so I'm trying to get you around that. You can, of course, you can pause the screen if you want to try to read what was on those panels. But on this first panel here, what that says there is disc 1, side A is the track called Mind. The second one is called Magic. They total 21 minutes for side 1 of disc 1. Side B of disc 1 is 3 tracks: Space, Seed, and Yes. Here's my thoughts. One of the reasons I took so long after release date to talk about this is most of the videos I've seen focused more on the packaging, the vinyl, and maybe in some cases their thoughts about the legitimacy of this as a project. I've already covered that. I won't mention that stuff anymore. But I wanted to actually know the sound on the records. I wanted to actually have an opinion about the music itself. And I've only seen 1 or 2 cases where there was discussion about the actual music. And so I wanted to take my time, even though, this came out, whatever it was, a month ago. I wanted to take my time and really sort of get used to some of the tracks. So I'll give you some thoughts on that. The first track, called Mind, as I said, it's 10 minutes long. It's fairly aggressive. All of these tracks have some reference to the song Mind Games. So some of the lyrics you can hear faintly in the background. In other cases, you can hear them quite clearly. But they're not songs in the sense that you hear the song Mind Games. You hear the words Mind Games. You hear that little hook with John singing. And you hear it in all kind of different permutations, different tempos, different background sounds. Some of these tracks are highly orchestrated. Some of them are very, very basic, almost acoustic, I would say. So the first track is Mind, and I actually put a star next to that. That's one of my favorite tracks. It's not uncommon to put a track that's commercially viable first on an album. I don't know if anybody was worried about commercial viability in this case. This is not going to be a hit record. It's a curiosity. It's a fairly small market for meditation music. Maybe there's a larger market for meditation music based on John Lennon's music. But nonetheless, it is an album, and it makes sense to put perhaps a stronger, more familiar track or a track that people would tend to gravitate towards. The second track, called Magic, I like that one too. I would say that one was a little brighter, whereas the first one was a little more relaxing and more, I won't say quiet. It's aggressive, but it wasn't bright, and it didn't have a lot of high end. It was kind of more dronish. But Magic, I like that a lot, actually. Space and Seed, those are the ones, Seed in particular, that sounds most familiar when it comes to the song Mind Games. You can clearly hear that the chord changes are Mind Games based. You can hear John's voice fairly clearly in different parts of the song. Both of those songs are just around 6 minutes, just slightly under 6 minutes. Yes is the next song, and Yes is I would say, well, I'm pretty sure that was not the single, but the song that they first released when they announced the album. And anybody who pre-bought the album on Apple Music or any of the major streaming platforms got that song immediately. So they clearly had a strong feeling about that being commercially viable. I want to go back to the album now. So I talked about disc 1, and we just got through disc 1 all the way down to the song Yes. On disc 2, there's a 5-minute song, which they have in parentheses as 15 hertz beta binaural. Not being somebody that understands the technology, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. That first song is Spirit. It's 5.5 minutes. And the next song and only other song on side A of disc 2 is Love. And that's a 0.5 hertz delta binaural. So for those of you who have some idea what that means, you have that information now. And side B of disc 2 is a song called Surrender, or a track called Surrender, and that's almost 24 minutes long, and that is the entire second side. Disc 3 has one song on side A, and that's a song called Peace, and that's 24 minutes, just under 24 minutes. And side B is the 9 mantras that I referred to earlier. Just a few more notes on that. So if you were to look on iTunes, for example, and you were to try to download this, you won't get the mantras. You'll just get the 9 songs, and they won't actually be in the order that they are on the vinyl. For some reasons, they have, and I guess it has to do with track length and what fits on a side. But on the iTunes or whatever platform, the 9 songs in a row are Mind, Magic, Space, Seed, Yes, Spirit, Surrender, Peace, and Love. Those are the 9 tracks. Surrender, in particular, and Peace have, I would say, fairly dramatic orchestration. Much more uplifting and exhilarating. Not really put you to sleep kind of stuff. More, more exuberant and more upbeat for sure. The mantras I haven't really spent a lot of time with yet, but if you know what a mantra is, it's usually a repeating sound that somebody uses to focus on, and it takes away all their other thoughts and cleanse their brain, so to speak. Again, that's not a textbook definition. That's a weak attempt at my definition of it. Since there is so much focus on the packaging, I'll continue on the packaging discussion just for a minute. So this is the middle panel, and hopefully you can read that now that I've got most of the glare out of the way. That says John Lennon Mind Games Meditation Mixes. And so when you open it, that's what you see first. And then you got that first panel I showed you before with the track listing. And then this, try to curve that so you can see that. Again, if you pause this, you'll be able to read through it. I'll just talk about it quickly. So it tells you who's on these tracks. So the first track, Mind, it says it's 100 hertz gamma binaural, and it's John Lennon on vocals and Sean Ono Lennon on piano. Track 2 is John Lennon on slide guitar, mellotron, and vocals. David Spinoza on electric guitar and Ken Asher on organ. Space is the third track, and that's 8 hertz theta binaural. John Lennon plays slide guitar, mellotron, and vocals, and Ken Asher plays organ. The next track on disc 1 is Seed. John plays slide guitar, mellotron, and vocals. Sean plays reverse piano, Wurlitzer electric piano, Celeste, electric guitars, slide guitar, Moog, and Yamaha CS80. And the last track on disc 1 is Yes, and that's John on vocals, Sean on drums, bass, reverse piano, Wurlitzer electric piano, Roland Jupiter 8, Celeste, electric guitars, slide guitar, Moog, Yamaha CS80. Disc 2 is Spirit, and that's a 15 hertz beta binaural. John is on slide guitar and mellotron. Dave Spinoza is on electric guitar. Ken Asher is on reed organ, and Gordon Edwards is on bass. Love is a 0.5 hertz delta binaural. John on vocals, Gordon Edwards on bass. No other instrumentation. Surrender is the last track on disc 2. That's John on vocals. No John instrumentation on that. And then Sean plays drums, bass, reverse piano, Wurlitzer electric piano, Roland Jupiter 8, Celeste, electric guitars, slide guitar, Moog, and Yamaha CS80. So as you can see, the John stuff clearly is stuff that he already played on the actual recording of the Mind Games album. And Sean has isolated the parts that he wants to use in any given song, and he's certainly augmented it by, with his own personal involvement on almost all the tracks. So arguably, this is a Sean Ono Lennon album as much of it as it is a John Lennon album, maybe more so. Disc 3 has the one song Peace, which I mentioned before is a whole side, the whole first side of disc 3. And John is on vocals, mellotron, slide guitar, clavinet, tambourine, and maracas. Ken Asher is on organ, reed organ, and piano. Dave Spinoza on electric guitar. Gordon Edwards on bass. Jim Keltner on drums. Obviously, that's a lot of the folks that were in the studio for the original recording of Mind Games. The mantras, they go through who's on those, so I'll quickly go through. Mantra 1 is Gordon Edwards on bass and Jim Keltner on drums. No John involvement. Mantra 2 is Gordon Edwards on bass. Mantra 3 is, Christine Wilshire, Jocelyn Brown, Kathy Mull, and Angel Coakley. And that's called Something Different. Mantra 4 is Dave Spinoza on electric guitar. Mantra 5 is Ken Asher on organ. Mantra 6 has John on vocals. And the Something Different group, again, of female vocalists is Christine Wilshire, Jocelyn Brown, Kathy Mull, and Angel Coakley. Mantra 7 is that same group of women under the banner of Something Different. I won't go through all their names again. And Mantra 8 is the same. Again, it's the same female vocalists. And Mantra 9 is just John on vocals, no other instrumentation. So that's the tracks. And of course, the thing that people seem to be focused on in many cases is, first of all, each of the record sleeves has these patterns that represent the gamma and the delta and those sort of things. It is a polyline sleeve, and it is the clearest of clear vinyls that you'll ever see. I'm sure you can see my face right through the record, so that's not lucky for you, but anyway. And of course I'm using gloves, but I'm trying to hold it the normal way, touching the outside only, but anyway, it's certainly the clearest vinyl I've ever seen, and I don't know that anybody's ever used a super clear vinyl like that. So there's 3 LPs, of course. They're each clear vinyl. They have a different paper sleeve. I'm not going to take them all out. So that's the John Lennon meditation disc. I happen to like it because I like meditation music. Some of the tracks I would probably never listen to. I mentioned earlier I would never listen to the whole thing like an album where you sit down and play 2.5 sides of vinyl for you know, for an hour and a half or whatever it adds up to. But I might pick a track that I like and listen to a 23-minute track that takes up a whole side. You know, you don't have to get up and move it or, you know, change it. You just can listen to it for the 23 minutes and move on to something else or fall asleep or wake up or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So, you know, if you're into meditation music and you don't mind having John's voice playing in the background on some of these songs, and you don't mind the fact that some of the music involves John's original recordings from the Mind Games sessions and some of the band that worked with him on those Mind Games sessions, it's kind of a nice blend. I said at the beginning, I don't think John would have ever given this project the go-ahead. This is, to me, is more of a Sean thing than a John thing. And therefore, I did have some mixed feelings about getting it. I have nothing against Sean. I appreciate what Sean is trying to do and keep his father's memory and legacy alive. Mind Games was not my favorite album, but I did buy into the the reimagined version of Mind Games, the remixed by Sean, and I thought it sounded much better than the original Mind Games. Just the technology, the recording technology alone, to me, made it sound like a much cleaner sounding record. Remember, John produced that album, and it was really the first album he produced of his own. And he was always going for a certain sound. He was never completely happy with the sound of his own voice in the 70s. He wasn't as confident with his voice in the 70s as he was in the 60s. And maybe not even all of the 60s was he confident, but he certainly wasn't confident in his voice in the 70s. And he liked to goof around with it and mask it and bury it and double and triple track it and change the speed and all that kind of stuff. Sean didn't mess around with double tracking or changing speeds or anything like that. But John's voice is more upfront on the Mind Games Ultra Mix recording that we got several months ago. In this case, John's voice is like it's in a cloud. I mean, you can almost barely hear it at all in some cases. In other cases, it's a little more prominent, but it's not a song in the sense that you know that you have verses and a bridge and a chorus. It's not that. It's usually one line of the song. Usually that line is playing those mind games. You know, that's the line that you hear more often than not, and not many other lines, although a few of the songs have some of that. So again, I don't know if John would have endorsed this project. And again, I, like a lot of people, had some mixed emotions about whether Sean ought to be goofing around with his father's recordings and turning them into a different thing. It's one thing to remix. It's something else to turn those recordings into a completely different product. But in this case, I kind of like it. I do, as I said, like to listen to meditation music once in a while. And as I said, you can pick a track and just listen to the track and accomplish whatever mood creation you're trying to go for. But other than that, it's not something you're going to sit and listen to for a long period of time. I happen to get it at a fairly cheap price relative to the suggested list price, so that helped me. I think the suggested list was $79.99 here in the U.S. That translates to a much higher number in some currencies, and it translates to less of a value in some currencies. But I think I got it for $59. So I was kind of happy that because my heart wasn't completely in it, and I wasn't exactly sure what I was getting. And frankly, mostly I was motivated by the fact that it was John Lennon, John's name on it, but kind of a cool package, vinyl, clear color vinyl. All those things are enticing to me as a Beatles completist, if you will. But I wasn't really sure that I wanted it, and I certainly wasn't going to pay full suggested retail if I didn't have to. So I lucked out. I got it a little cheaper than that. And I have to say, I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm interested in your comments, both about this video and about your comments about the album itself. And I'm sure I'm going to get some where people totally disagree that this thing should even exist. And, I think I was there at one point in time, but I'm not there now. And as always, if you like the video, hit that thumbs up button. If you don't like it, you can hit that thumbs down button. Please comment if you have suggestions about future videos. I'd be happy to check in on those and see if I can accommodate that with a thorough review of maybe a favorite item that you've heard of but you haven't actually seen in detail. And certainly subscribe if you like, and you'll get to see all the videos. There's several up there now. I just started this a few weeks ago. I think I have 4 or 5 videos up now. I also have a community section there where I post some of my favorite videos that other people have done. There's a couple of live Ringo things from a show that I went to in Connecticut, and my daughter always takes full videos of all the songs of the concert she goes to, and she happened to be at the Ringo show. So I posted a couple of her videos of Ringo stuff. There's a Paul video. There's a few other things on here. So look around on the site and certainly subscribe if it's something of interest. And I always post these videos on my Facebook page, which is My Beatles Collection. And you can get there through the Facebook page, and you can get there directly through a search on YouTube at On Air My Beatles Collection. So thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you again, and we'll be putting some more videos up very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.